Good morning, folks. Thank you for being here. This is nice. Nice crowd here. Good crowd. Good crowd. I'll be here all week. So I'm going to start with a story, a little bit of a, not really a story. This is something that actually happened to me personally. Um, so my college career, actually, it started off in a community college around Phoenix, Glendale, Arizona, actually. And then a friend and I decided we're going to go to Northern Arizona University because we lived in Arizona and thought it'd be need to go to a school outside of hometown, basically. Hometown being Phoenix, Arizona. And Northern Arizona University is in Flagstaff, Arizona. If you don't know, it's smallish school. They did get into like the elite eight one time or something with, you know. But when I was there, I think it was like 10,000 students. And that was in the late 70s, early 80s. Um, but this incident transpired in March of 79. Okay. So I had a couple of friends, Kevin and Jeff, and we were buddies. We played guitar together and jammed together and partook in different substances and such, and they were pretty much avid hikers and mountaineers in a sense, what I would call them. And I liked doing that, but I wasn't like, that wasn't my thing. I couldn't be found doing that, at any time. For them, it's like almost a daily occurrence, if not every weekend at least, going out someplace and hiking and doing stuff. So this spring, the three of us decided we're going to go out and just do some hiking. It's called St. Mary's Meadow. It's an area outside of Flagstaff where it's kind of flattish, and it's meadows that are actually formed in what are called calderas, like, you know, extinct volcanoes, basically. The whole place is volcanic, um, ash and whatnot, basalt earth. And we were hiking in the meadow there, and it was beautiful. Spring. It's 55 degrees, and given that Flagstaff is 7,000 feet up in the air, and the mountain range, the San Francisco peaks, with Humphreys Peak being the tallest one, that mountain is over 12,000 feet. So it's spectacular scenery, basically, there for the backdrop. And it was 55 degrees, as I said, and t-shirt weather in our estimation, because it was no longer 10 and 12 degrees and whatever. We're actually taking advantage of it. And if you're moving around, it doesn't bother you too much. So we're hiking, and we see this plateau up here. So here's the the the, um, the meadow, new wildflowers starting to grow and such, and then there's this plateau. And on the plateau, it's ponderosa pine. It's pretty much what grows in northern Arizona, ponderosa pine, um, either to be harvested or naturally. There's, to my knowledge, not a lot of old growth forest up there. But in any case, we saw that. We thought, man, it'd be neat to go up there and just hike up there too. So how do you get up there? Like thinking, and just walking. Then we come upon this weird rock formation, and so here's this cliffish thing, going up towards this plateau. Right in the middle of it is there's what looks like was a big boulder at one point, right? Just a big old boulder that got split in two somehow. So in that boulder, there's about this much distance between this half and this half. We went over there and started looking at that and said, how can we do this? You know, how can we climb this thing and get up to the plateau this way? And we looked and we saw that at the top of the boulder, there was a little ledge. And we said, well, you can get up there and stand. And then there's another smaller protruding boulder, you know, that had some roots coming out of it and little rock formations or rock things that you could hold on to. And you can say, I can climb that if I could get up there. Or so I thought. but, anyway, but in any case, I don't want to give away the ending. But we decided this is what we're going to do. We're going to crab up the two halves to the ledge and then figure out a way to climb that last little boulder up to the plateau. And crabbing meaning your back's against this side, your feet are against this side. You just kind of shimmy up. And if you're 20 something, you can do this. You know? So we did that. We got up. Kevin went first, I think, and he went up to the ledge. He found something to get a hold of. It looked like a root that he was grabbing onto and another rock, and then up he went. You know, piece of cake for him. And Jeff did the same. You know, he went up there and basically did what Kevin did, grab that root, get a hold of a rock and some crevices for a foothold, and up he was. And they're up there, and they know that I'm not a pro. I consider them to be, you know, my mentors in this arena. And they're up there and said, okay, you just, you know, just crab up. And that's easy enough. I could do that. And got up to that little ledge there. And it was, you know, solid. And I'm standing there. And I saw this root that they used to grab hold of. You know, first there was something to grab onto, a little foothold. And then you grab that root. And from there, you can get something else. And pretty much you're on the top. So I did that. I got up there. I grabbed that root and was no longer stable. It gave way. And so they're up there looking at me, and I'm like, slip. And they said, flatten out. You know, try to like Velcro yourself to this boulder so you don't slide. But you know, gravity is pretty good stuff, you know, and it just takes over. And I was slowly sliding down this boulder, and I thought, oh no. I went into, I'm going to have 2 broken legs mode pretty soon. You know? And as I was sliding there, in my mind, you know, literally thinking, so you hit the bottom, it's going to hurt. You probably are going to fracture something. You just wait. They'll come and get help. Most people live through these things, you know. And lo and behold, as I was sliding, I land on that ledge, luckily. And by this time, you know, there's been a lot of adrenaline going through my bloodstream here. And I'm pretty whipped. I thought, you know, and they're like looking at me, and they're like, shit, you know, you're okay. And they're like trying to coach me the rest of the way. And so I had to figure out for myself, you know, what to do, you know, how to get up this boulder in order to get to the plateau. And it kind of lesson learned in a sense that, you know, be careful of your teachers, you know, they, you know, the ones that, you know, you honor and respect, and they say, you know, this is the solution, you know, maybe not. You know? In this case, not so much. So anyway, I did figure it out. I found something to grab a hold on to, and shimmied my way up there, and I was up onto the plateau with them, and almost like right now, I'm pretty out of breath. But I was you know, pretty much whipped. My legs were just, you know, noodles, as I would think, or say. And we went on the hike up there, and it was pretty cool. You know, it was in its way worth it, you know, because it was just an awesome sight to be amongst the trees there. Uh, and when I think of forest now, knowing, having lived in Michigan for years now, and I see forest here and it's real dense, right? That's not how it is up there. There's trees, you know, a good amount of trees, aspen and the ponderosa pine, but in between, you know, just ground pretty much. There's not overgrowth of different plants and whatnot. So it's it's forested but spacious at the same time. Um, and what's one thing that, you know, when if you ever get this chance, I swear this is true. When you're in a ponderosa pine forest, and you breathe in and you'll say, "What's that strawberry smell? You know, why is it?" And you go up to a ponderosa pine tree and you like hug it. This is probably where the whole idea came from, tree hugging, you know. You put your nose up against that bark and you smell, and it kind of smells like strawberries. It's weird. You know, it's a sweet, it's a awesome smell. And that was my memorable experience. Now, so as we do this thing, these this thing called life, isn't it true that we're ultimately having to make our own way in this world? Right? You come upon experts and teachers and books and um, authority figures and whatnot, and they may propose this is the solution. This is the solution. And even if that's the case, you still have to try that solution on, and you still have to test it out and see if that's something that works for you. And think, you know, is this something I want to invest my time in? Is this something that I want to commit to? You know, their solution, or am I going to find my own solution? And that's, I think, there's a middle way, as always in Buddhism. There's a middle way, and that is follow the teachings and at the same time test and learn and adapt them to you. See, there's a, you know, there's this idea we're each making our own way in this world and no one is going to come and save us, right? And there are religions that do hold out that there's a savior and it's all on him. It's all on that person to to save you. But even in those religions, there are teachings that say you have to do the work yourself too, you know. And ultimately, I think it's true no matter what. You have to do the work. So there's a song. As far as I know, the only one that made it popular was Blind Willie McTell in the 30s. It says, I got to cross that river Jordan for myself. I got to cross that river Jordan for myself. Ain't nobody here can cross it for me. I got to cross it for myself. I got to work my soul salvation for myself. I got to work my soul salvation for myself. Ain't nobody here can work it for me. I gotta work soul salvation for myself. Even there, right? You gotta do the work. Now, the Buddha, if you're familiar with his the end of his life, there was a he had traveled um, with his attendant, his cousin Ananda, to bhikkhus, there's a group of bhikkhus, and he knew that he was coming to his end of his teaching career. And he has traveled to this area, and the story is that he had a meal that was served to him, and he ate it. He admonished everybody else not to eat it. He knew that it was poisoned, that it um, was tainted, basically. And that's what caused his demise and his passing on to what we call parinibbana, which means like the supreme nirvana, beyond what we even experience, through awakening in this life. But there's more to that story. See, near the end of his life, and more or less on this trip to these group of bhikkhus, the Buddha had become very ill also, separate from that incident. And it was touch and go. He was definitely, looking at, this could be where I die here, in this place, not where, in the place of my choosing, in effect. So he willed himself to recovery. He's the Buddha. But no, he did. He willed himself to recovery, and felt that he had this obligation to address the bhikkhus before the sangha of bhikkhus. And his attendant, Ananda, lamented that he had almost lost his supreme teacher. And he was like, we almost didn't have you anymore. This would have been terrible. The Buddha persisted, had surpassed this illness so that he could fulfill this obligation that he felt he had to be in the presence of the bhikkhus in his final days. But the Buddha, Ananda lamented that the Buddha would no longer have been with them, and he said, what final teaching would the Buddha give to the bhikkhus once we get there? And the Buddha admonished Ananda, saying that his teaching, those teachings that he had given over his 45-year career of teaching since his awakening, were indeed him. That is the Buddha. That is his work, and that is what he's leaving. And so he thought, he said, what final teaching could the bhikkhus even expect from him? This very Dharma that we practice is the Buddha made real right here and right now. So what I'm going to read is something from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. So subtitled The Last Days of the Buddha's Life. So hands together in Hapchang. What more does the community of bhikkhus expect from me, Ananda? I have set forth the Dhamma without making any distinction of esoteric and exoteric doctrine. There is nothing, Ananda, with regard to the teachings that the Tathagata, the Buddha, holds to the last with the closed fist of a teacher who keeps something held back. Whosoever may think that it is he who should lead the community of bhikkhus, or that the community depends on him, it is such a one that would have to give last instructions respecting them. But Ananda, the Tathagata, has no such idea as that it is he who should lead the community or lead the community of bhikkhus, or that the community depends upon him. So what instructions should we have to give respecting the community of bhikkhus? He said, now I am frail, Ananda, old, aged, far gone in years. This is my 80th year, and my life is spent. Therefore, Ananda, be islands unto yourselves, refuges unto yourselves, seeking no external refuge. With the Dhamma as your island, the Dhamma as your refuge, seeking no other refuge. And how Ananda is a bhikkhu, an island unto himself, a refuge unto himself, seeking no external refuge. With the Dhamma as his island, the Dhamma as his refuge, seeking no other refuge. After having overcome desire and sorrow in regard to the world, then truly he is an island unto himself, a refuge unto himself, seeking no external refuge. Having the Dhamma as his island, the Dhamma as his refuge, seeking no other refuge. And so ends this reading. So, almost. So that's, when we practice here, that's the Buddha made real. I mean, if he was here, he'd say, what do you want? This is it. We got books. But I do want to end with a more or less an end cap here. Gautama Buddha was born in Lumbini, became fully enlightened in Bodh Gaya, set in motion the wheel of Dharma in Sarnath, and passed into Parinirvana in Kusinara. And ending with Sungbo Hashipshu, may you all become Buddhas in this lifetime.